And with that, let's get this State of the Coastside show on the road. I'm Krystlyn Giedt, the President and CEO of the Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce. And thank you for joining us for the third State of the Coastside, where we bring you updates from our local officials. I have found in being out in the community that not everybody goes to all of the agency meetings. And so this is a great way for everybody to kind of see what our local agencies are doing and how they're getting their projects done and really celebrate the accomplishments of our different groups. So thank you for coming. We want to thank our two sponsors of this event, Rocket Farms and San Mateo Credit Union. And we would like to thank our presenters, Supervisor Don Horsley from the County of San Mateo, Clair Toutant, who is the 2022 chair of the Midcoast Community Council, General Manager Jim Pruitt of the San Mateo County Harbor District, Mayor Debbie Reddick, who for the city of Half Moon Bay, and then Council Member Nick Erridge of the Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council, and then myself, Krystlyn from the Chamber of Commerce. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to the 2022 Board President of our Board of Supervisors, Don Horsley. And you're on mute, Don.
I finally figured out to unmute myself. Thanks very much. Thanks, Krystlyn, and good to be with you today. And I'm not sure how much time I should take, but I thought I would just go from Pacifica always to Pescadero. And Pacifica, the biggest problem in Pacifica is really their seawall, and at least that's the one that's going to probably impact both the city, the county, eventually the state, and probably even the federal government as well. As well as we have a new organization in which Councilwoman Debbie Ruddock and I are both on the One Shoreline, and we're basically talking with the One Shoreline is designed to have a unified voice to talk about both the Bayside as well as the ocean side. In the city of, Half Moon Bay, there's a couple of projects that we're working with the city on that came to life fairly recently. One is a potential farm labor housing site that's close to Wavecrest, and then there's the other project that's working with the city councilman Joaquin Jimenez is the San Bernardino project. It's a farm basically for farm workers. In the Midcoast, I think finally got all of our ducks in a row for the multimodal trail, which is really on the east side of Highway 101. On Highway 1, that is. I'm sort of stuck on the Bayside still, but on Highway 1, it'll go from all the way to what the heck is the street? Hey, in any case, it'll connect to the Naomi Patridge Trail. And so if you were a student at Fairlawn View School, you'll be able to walk all the way to Half Moon Bay eventually. Or if you were a citizen, you could bike or walk or whatever on that multimodal trail. In the city of Pacifica, we are working on a number of things. One is it's actually not a city, it's a town, but we're looking at a couple of potential properties. The town would like to have a park or a meeting place or a town center. So there are two different properties that we're looking at. And we're doing it as appraisal to see what the actual value is, see what are the potential pitfalls on each one of those properties, and we'll be making an offer and eventually working with the town folks on deciding what they want in terms of a town center. Do they want it to be something for visitors, a combination potentially like a tot lot, and I've heard of things that's like a bandstand, some kind of a community center. We're also working with the state of California Water Resources Control Board to move what's called CSA 11, which is a county service area. It's a water system that supplies the town of Pescadero. But because of the 1980s Measure A, which limited or defined the urban-rural boundary, we have to go through a process with changing our LCP to allow us to move that water line to the high school, which is outside of the urban boundary, and it's in the rural boundary. So we have to do an EIR. And at the same time, we also want to move our fire station, which is in a flood zone, to move it onto a parcel owned by the school district. And that's a bit of a challenge with the Coastal Commission, because they would like us to replace the land that is going to be the fire station with twice as big a site as an agricultural parcel. And that's kind of difficult to create agriculture. It's either there or it's not there. I don't know how you create or make agriculture. So we have to work with the Coastal Commission to figure that out. Then if you go a little towards Half Moon Bay, we sometime back bought a property on Two Natives Creek Beach, basically. I don't know how many acres it is, 50 or 60 acres or so. It has some problems. There really isn't any water to it. There was a house on it at one time, and it did have access to water, but because of slides, the water was cut off. But we are doing everything we can to kind of replicate that, not necessarily a house, but to have some kind of a ranger station, public bathrooms, and an access to the beach in a controlled manner, as opposed to the uncontrolled use that it was in the past. The other issues that we work with, we have worked pretty collaboratively with the city of Half Moon Bay on things like homelessness. Now we have similar problems up in Pacifica, but I can talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But the two projects that we worked with the city on were the Abundant Grace Worker Center. The city and the county both matched. We matched the $300,000 each for the actual facility. And then we have a grant of about $50,000 annually to Eric DeBoat and his group. And the $50,000 pays people who are formerly homeless. They also may now reside in Coast House, which is about a 52-bed facility. It used to be it was a hotel at one time. We've done some extensive remodeling. I hope that we're actually pretty good stewards of that property. And I think we have, with the city, have a community advisory board that works with us on that. The other project on homelessness in the city of Pacifica has got a real significant problem with people living in RVs. So we are putting about $150,000 to the Pacifica Resource Center to help them with the safe parking area someplace in the town. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do it, but we're going to help fund it because the city essentially doesn't have any funding. One of the things the city has done that's really remarkable is they have 6 marijuana distribution centers, and they have been spectacularly successful. I think the income level is in the neighborhood about 600,000. I think some of the other cities in the county are looking at that. Even though they're getting additional revenue, certainly not going to be enough to fund that seawall. So we are going to have to work collaboratively with them to try and figure out how we're going to be able to deal with that. Going back, so I'm bouncing around a little bit here, if you don't mind. Going back to the multimodal trail, I made a note to myself. The street it's Coronado all the way into the Naomi Patridge Trail. And the other project that we have in Miramar is the Medio Bridge project. What that was it was a steel bridge that was on top of an old concrete bridge, both of which were deteriorated to the point where we had to shut them down. And it's taken some time to develop a plan, and working with the Coastal Commission, coming up with a plan that's acceptable to the Coastal Commission, to the community, as well as to the county. I believe that both of those projects will be being constructed, I believe, this summer, which is good, because that's my last summer as a supervisor. So that kind of brings you up to date. I didn't talk about Princeton. We do we have a gym as part of this. We do a once a month meeting with all of the participants from the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, Harbor District on the Princeton, which is the only working waterfront, really basically on the coast. I think it's the only one on the whole coast, going all the way down to Santa Cruz. With that, that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of the coast side from the county's perspective.
Thank you so much, Don. I really appreciate it. And if anybody has questions for Don, we will.
I didn't talk about fire, but we do have, there's a, we work again with both the city, the fire agencies. We do have the potential for wildland fires on the coast.
Thank you. I do see that we have one question, and we will try to get to those at the end if we have time, so please hold on to them. Next, I would like to invite the 2022 chair of the Midcoast Community Council, Ms. Clair, to give the Midcoast update.
Thank you, Krystlyn. I'm Clair Toutant. As you just said, I'm the chair this year of the Midcoast Community Council. And for those who don't know us, the Midcoast Community Council is an elected advisory body to San Mateo County government, representing the unincorporated communities between Pacifica and Half Moon Bay. We focus and represent the concerns of the residents, not only to the county, but also to other groups such as Caltrans, and we try to assist in communications within our area. We're limited by being unpaid and having no staff, but we are more effective than you might think. The MCC is participating in the Fire Safe multi-jurisdictional project to prevent wildfire and consistently advocates for evacuation planning. We were involved in advocating for new trails along Highway 1, as Don mentioned, and in the repair of the bridge in Miramar. We were influential in getting the bridge detour onto Highway 1 hardened to protect the safety of pedestrians and bikers. We have advocated for improved safety through Devil's Slide, and barriers to prevent vehicles from going over the cliff are now being planned for installation soon. We monitor environmental risks and appropriate development. We are concerned with infrastructure and its impacts on the residents. This leads us to communications about schools, sewers, water, sea level rise, and most ubiquitously, traffic. We have been closely involved in the Connect the Coastside planning project, which is also coming to an end. We are in favor of zoning to protect the integrity of local commercial districts in each community. At the same time, we're concerned that both housing is out of reach for so many, and that the infrastructure in our semi-rural area cannot sustain much more development. The MCC values robust involvement of community members in all of this. We write a quarterly newsletter about local issues we have been involved in. You can sign up for the newsletter and for meeting agendas at our website, which is midcoastcommunitycouncil.org. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Claire. And I also want to tout that MCC has been very instrumental in working on getting the eucalyptus handled in El Granada. I think that's a big project that lots of people care about and don't really know that MCC is a big part of that.
We were part, incidentally, of a meeting last night in coordination with the Resource Conservation District, who is coordinating all of this. They have a project right now with consultants trying to put together a plan for how best to address wildfire risks in the area. It's a big plan, very important, a lot of community input at the meeting last night. Tonight, we have a meeting on off-leash dog walking proposed for Corey Park and Pillar Point Bluffs, which is also generating a lot of comments. So we always have something going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire. And thank you for those who are starting to put questions in the chat. Again, we'll try to get to them towards the end. We just want to make sure we have enough time for the presentation. And next, we have the Great General Manager James Pruitt of the San Mateo County Harbor District. Take it away, Jim. Oh, you are on.
Thank you, Krystlyn. Can you hear me? All right, I was pushing the button as fast as I could. Again, I'm Jim Pruitt. I'm the general manager of the San Mateo County Harbor District, but of course, I'll focus on the coastside responsibilities of the district. And I have a presentation outline I just will go over with you. Recent board elections at the January board meeting, the commissioners elected new officers. Nancy Ryring is our new president. Bill Zemke is our vice president and secretary. Tom Matoush continues as treasurer. And then Virginia Chang Corrali and Ed Lorenas are commissioners. So looking forward to a great new year with our new officers. Talk about search and rescue on the coastside recently. We had a recent case yesterday, or no, Monday, where a individual got stuck on the rocks off the coast of Mavericks Beach. And the Harbor District was the main response agency because we're local. We're here with our jet skis and rescue craft, and we're here with our rescue boats, plus a rescue vehicle that drove out to Mavericks Beach, Mavericks Beach, and we were able to safely get the gentleman off the rocks and safely back to the beach, rescuing him. It was a coordinated effort. There was a member from the California lifeguards from the state parks that also assisted. But again, we were out there, we were here, we were locally, and we were able to rescue that individual. That brings me to what we brought up last year in a board meeting. Search and rescue is expensive. Maintaining the watercraft and maintaining the staffing levels is expensive. And the district simply doesn't have the funding to respond to the increased demand that we're getting for search and rescue and for our expertise on the coast. So the district is actively trying to find additional funding to bring on additional watercraft that are specialized for search and rescue and maritime assist, and also for additional staffing. We're doing this because the closest Coast Guard stations are Monterey and San Francisco. Both are a fair distance and hours away from rescuing somebody in distress here on the coast side. In addition, and recently, unfortunately, January is the anniversary of the death of RNA. RNA was the young boy who was swept out to sea trying to rescue his family at Cal Ranch State Beach. In response to his death and to honor him, his family and others started the RNA Foundation, along with the Sea Valor organization that already existed. The two foundations worked together with the Harbor District and came up with a plan to put life-saving stations on district property, and you can see a picture of it there. It consists of warnings about sneaker waves, and also provides a location of where they're at so they can telephone rescuers the exact location. And then within the orange circle there is a life ring that has a 100-foot line attached that a member of the public can throw out to a person in distress and pull them in. Many people say, and I agree, that if that life ring was there at Cal Ranch State Beach, RNA would have had a chance to be alive today. Our next step with the life-saving ring, we have two posted, one at Surfers Beach, one at Mavericks Beach. We would like to extend the program with the RNA Foundation and Sea Valor organization to encompass all the state beaches and the city beaches and county beaches from Pacifica down to Pescadero. And I think we're going to be coordinating first with the city of Half Moon Bay for their beaches, along with the state beaches here in Half Moon Bay and off the coast, with an effort to get these installed. We do have strong support for it, and I don't see a significant barriers. The Coastal Commission has already approved the ones for the harbor and gave us a waiver, and I would expect the same for the other life-saving stations. The Tsunami Event, a couple weekends ago, Saturday, early morning, at the peak of high tide, we had a tsunami come into the coastside. Pillar Point Harbor, being a well-protected harbor with a double breakwater, received zero damage, and the boats in the harbor with no damage at all. The water came in throughout the entire breakwater system, and the harbor was filled up like a bathtub, 4 to 5 feet higher than normal, and then drained like a bathtub out of the mouth of the harbor, creating a large whirlpool out there of sand from the harbor. So it was actually a dredging event for us at the mouth of the harbor, and we benefited from that. But again, no damage at all. We did evacuate the harbor. We did secure all the power and utilities to ensure the safety of the environment and the people. But in the end, it was just an event with no damage. So staff did a fantastic job, and our harbor is built very well. Crab season. Everybody was waiting for crab season to open. It finally did, and off the boat sales started. The first couple of days, and it continues to bring thousands of visitors to the harbor to buy live crab and processed crab. You can get the crabs are being sold by the tenant fish buyers, by individual fishermen off the boats, and by the Princeton Seafood Market. It's a great event every year and brings in lots of people and a lot of commerce into the coastside. So we look forward to that every year, and hopefully next year will be better too. Capital improvement projects. We have a lot going on at the harbor. The Johnson Pier capital improvement project was put on hold for a year based on budget constraints, but that project is now fully underway with design and engineering and permitting, and we hope to move on to the next phase once we identify the funding for construction. Finally, a couple weeks ago, we broke ground at the West Trail to improve the West Trail and get it reestablished with our natural beach and natural habitat, and that is going on right now. And the parking lot at the West Trails is being used for a storage area, so some parking has been reduced. But in April, we hope to open up the entire area again with a new and improved West Trail and with additional beach on the interior of the harbor. Tenant row restrooms is another project we're working on to comply with ADA requirements. Right now, the plans are with the County of San Mateo for final approval, and we hope to receive that soon and then put it out for construction. Surfer Beach replenishment is still going strong. We're still doing our studies and developing our plans. The next step is the eelgrass mitigation, and we're getting close to the time where that eelgrass mitigation should begin. All the studies are done. Now we're just seeking approval to get that done. And then once the eelgrass is done, then we can start looking at the dredging and replenishing the sand on Surfers Beach and rebuilding that beach, which will also protect Highway 1. Surfers Beach restroom and green space project is moving forward. Design and engineering is complete. Permitting, we're getting the final permitting, and right now it's for the city of Half Moon Bay, and we're waiting to hear back on the approvals to start construction. A new tenant road to replace the current building that is at Pillar Point Harbor is currently, or will start soon, design and engineering, and we'll definitely reach out, and we need community input on how the new tenant road building will look and where it will go. It is an open slate. We could replace the current tenant building in the same place, or we could relocate that tenant building to another place on the property that has better views of the harbor and the waterfront. Again, that's all open, and we need to coordinate that with the public and with our board. Stormwater recycling, this project's not approved by the board yet, but we're getting the package together to present. The idea is that Pillar Point Harbor will capture and recycle stormwater coming into the harbor, and for beneficial reuse during time of drought, where non-potable water uses are needed, such as watering, landscaping, and or doing washdowns. It will also improve the water quality in the harbor itself with the beaches, which we all know have been contaminated by stormwater. We capture that stormwater, we can treat it to reduce the bacterial load in that stormwater. And then when it's released back in the harbor, it'll be clean, much cleaner than what's being received now. So it's two significant beneficial reuses for the water in Clean Harbor. And finally, native plants. We'll be removing most of the non-native plants and trees from the harbor and replacing them with native plants to this area, which are also drought resistant. And I apologize, the dog is in the background. Wildlife protection, and you can see the signs on the side. One is speed limit. The speed limit in the harbor is 5 miles an hour. And we definitely need the public to help us. When you're out on the water, please obey the speed limits. We're getting a lot of strikes on the harbor seals and other pinnipeds in the harbor by boats speeding. But we're also working on trying to reduce the number of speeders in the harbor through the harbor patrol. Lost fishing gear, especially off the breakwater. You see this cormorant picture. Down at its feet is fishing line and hooks and a recreational crab trap that's used to snare crabs off the breakwater. The cormorant dives down and goes into it and gets stuck, and then it gets wrapped up in its feet. Unfortunately, this cormorant we weren't able to catch it, and it did pass away. But we're trying to improve that and collect the fishing gear and educate the public on the dangers of throwing your fishing gear or lines away in the wild. And finally, wildlife disruptions. They are getting pretty significant at the harbor. Pelicans, hundreds and hundreds of pelicans rest on the breakwater, and every time a boat comes by and sweeps them with their lights at night, they all take off. But the pelicans don't do well as land. They land on the breakwaters after they take off, and it's a regular occurrence that they break their legs. And then pass away after that. So we're working with the boat operators to help with the wildlife disruptions. Also, you see on the side where you see two warning signs. One warning sign where it says "No fishing, do not enter." That's the warning sign on the inner breakwater where you're not allowed to even walk on it or fish. And we keep the public away because there is a lot of wildlife habitat on that breakwater for birds. The second one to the right of that is the outer breakwater warning sign. Again, warning them of the dangers of walking out on the breakwater, but also asking them not to disturb the wildlife or birds out there. And then finally, the state has posted that similar sign out there that's much smaller that says "Don't disturb resting shore birds." So there's a lot of education out there, and we try to increase that education to protect the wildlife that calls Pedestrian home. And then finally, I want to close with the highlight of the year is the Harbor Patrol participation in the Holiday Light Parade. It was a fantastic event. Chamber did wonderful in sponsoring that event. And we look forward to participating in an even bigger and better event next year. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Jim. That was wonderful. And I did see that a question popped up for you in the chat, and we'll try to get to it at the end. Next, I would like to present, or I would like to invite to present this year's City of Half Moon Bay Mayor, Miss Debbie Ruddock. And you might be, oh, there we go.
Could you put up my presentation, please? Yeah. Okay, welcome everybody. It's good to see everybody and hear what everybody's doing. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening on the coast side. Thanks to the Chamber for an invitation. So if you could move on to the next slide, please. So this quote kind of tells you where the city is right now. And it's prompted by all the stuff that's been happening with COVID. So I'd like to read it because I think it's a great one. So Government policies, whether about leveling up or economic development, need to be influenced by the concept of human flourishing. It combines health and well-being, social stability, and of course, prosperity, all of which need to be in balance. It should be a central part of how we think about redesigning our society for the future. So next slide, please. Actually, next slide, please. I actually think I have the wrong presentation. Okay, I will backtrack then. Could you go back to the previous slide? Yeah, I thought we were going to be presenting on the city's economic recovery initiative. So it looks like that's not happening. There it is. Okay. So this is kind of what we wanted to talk about today, was the Coastside Recovery Initiative. And it kind of embodies the thinking in the quote that I just read. So because of COVID, we felt that we had to fashion our economy to work for everybody by putting equity at the forefront. We also have come to understand that economic development is interconnected to large issues like affordable housing, digital infrastructure, and that solutions to these issues have to be addressed thoughtfully, intelligently, and basically collaboratively. So that was kind of the thinking behind starting this initiative. And it was aimed at addressing immediate needs, but also to advance strategies that look at the entire economic ecosystem, if you will, that includes many different aspects of our community. Next slide, please. So we did a lot of outreach around this. There were open houses. We established a task force. We looked at numerous data sources to inform the conversation. And then the committee came up with a series of recommendations. Next slide, please. So because we felt that we should take a broader sort of economic ecosystem approach, the recovery task force included a lot of different individuals and organizations touching on every aspect of our community. As you can see, it includes the county, it includes nonprofit organizations, it includes Silicon Valley venture capitalists. It was a very broadly tasked and broadly represented group. And everybody was very committed to the process, and everybody showed up. And it was a good experience simply based on all the collaboration and establishing these new relationships. Next slide, please. So we established a brand and a website, gathered community feedback from about 200 attendees, more than 20 meetings. We actually broke it up into subgroups that dealt with more business interests, our environment, etc. So everybody had their own set of recommendations, and some of those recommendations included so redesigning the streetscape of Main Street and Half Moon Bay to improve mobility, economic activity, and vibrancy. There were a lot of recommendations. That was one. Bear with me here. Another couple worth mentioning. We wanted to create a business incubator for new startup and early stage companies aligned with our unique industries. That would be like agricultural technology, marine, aviation, and environmental. And then develop a small business assistance center at the Chamber of Commerce and develop a community lending strategy to assess borrower needs, capital gaps, and appropriate lending options. So the next step is basically to take a look at these recommendations and start prioritizing. And we also helped launch Make It Main Street, which I'm sure many of you have been to, which has been great to celebrate and showcase local artists. Lots of people are interested in the poetry readings we have. It's a really wonderful event, and we hope to have more events. Next slide, please. Okay, so I think I covered this in the previous slide. We can move on to the next one. So the big project that's coming to town is the creation of a new Carter Park. Carter Park, as you may know, some people are not even aware that it exists because it's kind of down in a bowl near the little shopping center near the Main Street Bridge. But the city acquired $4.5 million grant from the state in the last budget to implement a plan that includes a stage, an amphitheater, an area for children to play. There's going to be environmental restoration. And we see this as sort of a cornerstone project that's going to help revitalize downtown. And actually, you know, as we look at the entirety of Main Street, we think there's a potential to have a Main Street corridor that extends basically from Carter Park through downtown and ends at the Johnston House, because new plans are developing for the Johnston House that include trailheads, potentially a kitchen garden, an area for more events. There's going to be a trail along Higgins Canyon Road that will lead from the intersection of 1 all the way up to the Johnston House that'll accommodate bikes and pedestrians. So we have a chance to actually make a Main Street corridor that will help inform future decisions about how we grow along Main Street, so that we actually bring vitality, not just to the immediate 4 blocks of downtown, but all along Main Street. And that's a plan that'll take some time to implement, but we're pretty excited about it. Next slide, please. Just want to say thank you. And if you're interested more in learning about the recovery initiative, please go to coastsiderecovery.com. That'll detail all of our recommendations and next steps. And I just want to mention, you had a slide in there about the highway, the Main Street Highway 1 South project. I don't want to gloss over that because it's kind of a key feature as part of that Main Street corridor project, right? It creates a more inviting entrance. It allows pedestrians to cross from South Main Street over to the Coastside Trail and the Highway 1 parallel trail. And there's an easement now that on which we'll create the trail from that intersection all the way up to the Johnston House. So in addition to safety improvements for pedestrians and vehicles, we see it as an economic development project, and hope to see payoff in the future. It also makes it safer for the fire station to access Highway 1, safer and quicker. So with that, I would just say thank you for the invitation and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Mayor Debbie Ruddock. Really appreciate it. And next, we will hear from Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council member, Nick Erridge.
Thanks, Krystlyn. Thanks for the opportunity to share what the PMAC is doing in Pescadero. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Erridge. I'm a board member on the PMAC, which is the Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council. I've been in multiple roles there. Right now, I'm just a board member. I used to be the chair. I was the vice chair. I was secretary, and yeah, right now I'm just a board member. So, which is a big deal. So today I'm just going to share with some of the activity highlights that the PMAC has been involved with over this past year and this coming year. Don has mentioned a few of them, but I'll just highlight what I have today. First and foremost is the fire station. Don mentioned the fire station. It's moving from the current location just outside of town towards Highway 1 to its new location adjacent to the Pescadero High School. It's still in the review process, as Don said, pending the California Coastal Commission certification of the San Mateo County LCP. The estimated process completion time for that review is summer, fall of this year. The county is in the final stages of negotiating mitigation measures, which will likely include moving the fire station approximately 25 feet to the east. The LAFCO MSR process is running in parallel with the LCP amendment process. The environmental review has been completed on most of the technical work, and will revise the resolution of Coastal Commission comments to the LCP application. I know that's a lot of acronyms there, but bottom line is we're moving forward with this long-term and much-needed project. Next, with the help of San Mateo County, we've done some minor traffic studies. And with that data, we've concluded that adding some speed limit signs will help calm some of the weekend speeding issues that we've been seeing. We've added some new speed limit signs on Pescadero Creek Road on the way into town and also out of town. We've also added some signage in Lomamar as well. These efforts are all in support of traffic calming. Pescadero sees a lot of visitor traffic and car clubs on the weekends, and some visitors are unfamiliar with our local speed limits. So hopefully these additional signs will help with the traffic calming. We're continuing with our popular green waste chipper program. This helps residents with clearing hazardous fire green waste. This program is specific to Lomamar, but we're looking to expand into Pescadero with the help of the Resource Conservation District. As Don mentioned, we're working on bringing a much needed park plaza to downtown Pescadero. This is a really exciting project that I'm very close to. We're currently, as Don said, we're looking at 2 locations right now. We are in the infancy stage of this project, and I want to personally thank Supervisor Don Horsley and Legislative Aide Bray Hunter for all the hard work and support they provided so far, and hopefully making this dream become a reality. I also want to thank Karen Decker and Erica Wood for their from the Coastside Recovery Initiative for their support letter and general support for this project. Fingers crossed, we will this project will come to fruition. There's a lot of work ahead for everyone, especially for the community, but it's a really exciting project. PMAC is also updating its bylaws to become more inclusive. This is long overdue. We are working collectively to update the bylaws to include roles, responsibilities, goals, visions, and inclusivity for all our community members across identity and language, in addition to concerns regarding safety, infrastructure, and access. PMAC is also working on providing Spanish translation of PMAC materials, like agendas, meeting info, website. Thanks to Supervisor Horsley and Legislative Aide Hunter for helping to secure the funding to make that happen. We received an increase in funds to include simultaneous Spanish translation of our board meetings as an essential step to engaging our Spanish-speaking community. We're also in the process of adding some bike fixing stations in town. I'm sure some of you have seen those bike fixing stations around Half Moon Bay. We're going to get 2 of those in Pescadero. We're placing one in the center of town and one at the high school. The fixing stations will be provided by the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability. However, we're still waiting on the inventory due to supply chain and price change issues, but hopefully we'll have those ready for the summer and installed in time for the summer. This will also help residents and visitors alike who bike for fun and also for transportation in our community. We have a new PMAC member, Mark Wallace. He just joined PMAC this month. We're pretty excited about that. He's a great addition to our board. He's currently the executive director of the Writers Grotto based in San Francisco, so we're really lucky to have him. And then for my last update, additional Wi-Fi infrastructure is being added throughout our community this week, from one end of Stage Road to the other. This is very helpful. This is much needed service that supports the community, the businesses, and visitors alike. Thanks again, San Mateo County. That's all I have for my update, and thanks for the opportunity to share what PMAC is doing.
Thank you so much, Nick. Very much appreciate it. And lastly, I am just going to give a minor update to what the Chamber of Commerce has been doing. We are the only coastside-wide nonprofit that is geared towards economic development and helping our business community, which in turn helps the community as a whole. And so, let's see if I can do this. So a snapshot of our 2021 with only 1.5 people. I'm the only full-time employee, and then I have a part-timer. We were able to still accomplish quite a lot in 2021, and we're pretty darn proud. Our revenues are still down from COVID, as many are, and but even still, we work really hard to make sure that our services don't suffer. So one of our main services that we provide is advocating on behalf of the business community. And we really try to advocate from the California state level all the way down to each one of our individual commissions. So I was able to work with Caltrans and on multiple projects that they are working on for Highway 1 and provide a lot of feedback. Also, trying to hold PG&E's feet to the fire, or helping to hold their feet to the fire in regards to planned power shutoffs and the things that they have that adversely affect our Coastside residents and businesses. I attend almost every city council meeting, and I'm able to provide feedback, as well as having a wonderful working relationship with our city staff. So we have worked in collaboration on things like the Coastside Recovery Initiative, which I mentioned I was on the executive team for that, as well as on 2 of the working groups that had a hand in business and economic development. We have Walkabout Wednesdays, where we check in with businesses so that we can hear straight from them what is going on and how we can help them. And then we also work directly with the Planning Commission, the Parks and Recreation, helped with the compostable foodware ordinance, the building electrification ordinance, and a very exciting downtown garbage can committee, which weirdly enough, I love. And then the future implementation of California SB 1383, which is going to mean that our businesses need to get on top of their organics recycling. So that's another great project that we're working on together. We are also helping with the city in their emergency planning and crisis communications plans. And then we were so honored for the chamber to be included in the 2021 State of the City address. So thank you very much for that. I also attend as many as I can of the Midcoast Community Council, and there's lots of great stuff going on there, like you heard from Claire. The Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council, attend those meetings, as well as the Harbor District meetings, and then the San Mateo County Ag Advisory Council. With ag being such a big part of our community, it's very important that the chamber understand their needs and continue to learn about what it is that they need help with, as it is such a big part of the economic driver for our area alongside tourism. Another thing that the chamber has been working on is increasing our information out to our members and the local businesses. So we have expanded our weekly emails to 3 separate emails, one showcasing local events. The next one on Wednesdays is opportunities. So those are funding opportunities, grant opportunities, opportunities to participate in programs and marketing, anything that a business or citizen can join in on that allows them to hopefully enrich their life or business. And then on Fridays, we put out an email with regulations and updates. So between the state and the county and the city, there's almost always some kind of regulation going on. So we want to make sure that everybody's in the know for what those are. And then also news to know. Sometimes just very cool things are happening, and we want to make sure that our community is aware of them. As many probably heard earlier this year, many of our businesses were hit with ADA lawsuits. It is a serial filer that does it. So we were able to bring together some consultants with the businesses that were hit with lawsuits, as well as had potential to be hit with lawsuits, and work with them to figure out ways that they could make their buildings as ADA compliant as possible to avoid major lawsuit settlements. We continue to work on increasing the business center so that we can help with things like providing grant writers, consulting for entrepreneurs, and a whole host of different programs that businesses will be able to hopefully use to grow, sustain their businesses. And then the chamber hosts multiple roundtable meetings throughout the month. We've got tourism, restaurants, nonprofit, general business, education. And through those roundtables, we are able to hear and help organizations in those different areas. We use the roundtables as kind of a support group so that they can really express the things that are bogging them down, and we can help find solutions. And then another major part of our work is marketing of the local businesses. So the chamber is a membership driven organization. And one thing that we did in 2020 and 2021 is we did not drop any members for lack of payment because of COVID. So we did not force payments. We just really wanted to help as many businesses as we could. And so that was a great thing that we were able to do. We have the Coastside 365 directory, which is the only Coastside wide local directory of the businesses. We started an initiative called Keep the Coastside Clean, which we hope will be the future of educating visitors on why and how they should respect our coastside. It's kind of our version of Keep Tahoe Blue. So we're working on that as well. The chamber manages the Hotel BID, which is a business improvement district that is geared towards marketing to visitors and helping bring visitor dollars, responsible visitor dollars, to the coastside. The chamber also runs the visitor center, so we handle all of the calls, website inquiries, and so on. And then we host many events throughout the year, such as Nights of Lights. We had our Awesomeness Awards in 2021, Farm, Fish, and Flowers, which is tours, and so on, to help bring both education and economic dollars to different business segments. And then lastly, we embrace social media. So we do our best to keep up with Instagram and Nextdoor and all of those good things, and make sure that people know what's going on and that we also know what's going on with our community. Two things that we started in 2021 that I'm super excited about is we're adding a classroom so that we'll be able to provide classes to businesses like QuickBooks and how to do marketing on Instagram and so on and so forth. So that's really exciting. And then something just of note is just a couple of different groups that we belong to that we also think benefit the community that we're a part of, which is like the Downtown Association, the Coastside Emergency Action Program. And then I was able to be a part of many different things like youth speech judging for the American Association of University Women, scholarship submission reviews for Puente, and many more, Rotary, Oddfellows, all of that. So we really try to keep the pulse of the community by attending and being a part of as many things as humanly possible. So for 2022, the look ahead, our work plan is continue everything we did in 2021. Nothing on that list can be dropped. And if anything, we just continue to work to improve each one of those areas. As Debbie Reddick mentioned earlier, the Coastside Recovery Initiative recommendations are now kind of moving into research and development of those 15 recommendations, and the chamber will be very much a part of that. Now, as we are kind of 2 years into the pandemic and businesses are really trying to continue to get their revenues back up and all of that, we want to evolve our Coastside 365 suite of products so that we can improve the marketing of our businesses to both visitors and, more importantly, the locals. Shop local is just a really big thing. That's really what keeps us a lot of our businesses afloat. And people are often surprised that their local dollars go such a long way. We want to evolve our events to increase the economic impact for the business segments that they serve. We want to grow, Keep the Coastside Clean initiative to help educate visitors about our coastside and what they can do to preserve it. We're going to continue with the help of the city and the county, thank you very much, to grow the business center and continue to help businesses overcome the hurdles that they face. We are going to implement programming to support the business growth through different tools and classes. And we want to start helping job seekers grow their skills so that they can find local jobs. So making sure that they're learning things that our local jobs need them to know, and that we can help connect them, and then helping job seekers with things like their resume and the items that they need to help them get a job. So really help be a bridge between those two segments. And With that, the chamber will continue to work with all of the agencies that have spoken here to make sure that we are representing the business community and continuing to bring as much economic development and dollars that we can. So thank you so much for listening to that. And with that, we will do a couple of minutes of questions as long as our speakers can hang out. And so I did see that we had 2 questions in the chat. And so if Miss Jane Batty would like to ask her question, please feel free to go ahead.
Hi, Krystlyn, thanks very much. Yeah, I wondered if there was any update on the east to west crossings, pedestrian crossings for Highway 1, particularly in Moss Beach, which seems a perilous situation, and in the Miramar area where there really is no place to cross. So I wondered if there was any update.
I can take that if you want. At least I can start off with the question. Somebody else may want to add something. I'm going to start off with an answer. We are very concerned about this. This is something the MCC has taken a stance on for years and years. We would at least like to see pedestrian safety islands, even just painted in the middle of the street, but we haven't been able to get that done. A lot of it depends on coordination between the county and Caltrans. You are aware probably that there is a crosswalk now in Moss Beach, which Caltrans put in with no planning in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. They have recently upgraded the safety on that crosswalk. There are now flashing signs or flashing lights that people can push. There are fluorescence flags that people can carry. There are safety vests that people can wear. It's like there are warning signs that the crosswalk is coming up. It's like we're doing everybody is doing everything possible to make it safe, but it's not very safe. There is a state law that we just passed that allows for reduction of speed on some highways, which we think Highway 1 in Moss Beach would be one of them. That we'll want to pursue as the year goes on. Miramar, we're also aware that there are problems there. It's I have to say about Moss Beach. So the Connect the Coastside is just about done. That's going to help. There will be some intersection control of some sort, whether it's roundabouts or stoplights, which will help with pedestrian crossing. There's also a study that's just now being funded for Moss Beach corridor. So I think there are things that are going to be in the works. In Miramar, it's a little bit more difficult situation at the moment because of the Miramar Bridge being out. So there are so many diversions and detours right now in Miramar that it's really hard to plan reasonable crossings for pedestrians that will endure. But that's certainly on the drawing board as well. It'll probably take a little more time because we have to wait for the bridge to be fixed. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you and for all the efforts and knowing that more work is needed. And if there's anything I can do to help as well, I'm happy to. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we had a question from Miss Judy Taylor, which I believe was geared towards Jim of the Harbor. Judy, if you would like to ask your question.
Yeah, I would assume that the Harbor District knows more about this than any other agency. But there was talk years ago about, well, the Romeo Pier was to buy a footprint of a pier and then to rebuild it someplace else. Where is that? And then the coastal trail, there was an effort to get it running along the harbor rather than on the surface streets in Princeton. So any information on that?
Thanks for the questions. I'll start with the coastal trail. The coastal trail right now does go through the harbor itself. And I know that wasn't the area you're talking about, but I'd like to highlight that. And that the board approved the funding to complete the connections within the harbor. For example, as you walk on the coastal trail above the kayak rental agency there, Half Moon Bay Kayak, it goes to about a 14-inch wide or 15-inch wide path where strollers and bikes are forced onto the road. We're going to fix that and make the coastal trail all the same width all the way through. And also over between the harbor master's office and the floating docks of A, B, and C, we're going to repair that trail and make it more accessible and safer to transit the harbor on that coastal trail. With respect to the coastal trail going through Princeton or on the harbor side or water side of Princeton, that right now that's the tide comes all the way up into Princeton. So I don't see how it's possible to put a coastal trail in that location between the inner breakwater and outer breakwater there in Princeton. With respect to the Romeo Pier, it was dangerous and it was dismantled and removed a few years ago. And the Harbor District doesn't have any plans right now to replace the Romeo Pier, but we do have plans to expand Johnson Pier to enable a safer experience for visitors and also for the people who work and make a living on that pier. Hopefully that addressed your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim and Judy. If anybody else would like to raise their hand and ask a question, now would be the time. And seeing none, I would just like to thank everybody for coming today to the State of the Coastside, and I would like to give a huge thank you to our presenters, Supervisor Don Horsley, MCC Chair Clair Toutant, General Manager of the Harbor Jim Pruitt, the Mayor of the City of Half Moon Bay Debbie Ruddock, Council Member of the Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council Nick Erridge. And with that, we bid you adieu and hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and your week. Thank you, everybody.